worked.
Brown had a really bad one on Twitter on Hearthstone. He had a pun on Hearthstone. I don't even want to remember. We are now in the game, and in the bottom left-hand side, it is the Queen of Blades. It is Scarlett.
In the top right for Storm Gaming, he is Epic. You know, there was I guess it was yesterday, probably yesterday, where you guys were talking about nicknames and how players, funnily enough, don't really get a say in what their nickname is. Mm-hmm. That was you and someone, right? Yeah. And I wanted to interject, but as a host, I really couldn't. So, but I'll say it now. Apparently, as far as I remember, Scarlett really doesn't like being called Queen of Blades.
That's too bad. She the Queen of Blades. It's
so fitting. It's an amazing nickname, right? Mm-hmm. But it just I don't know if I ever got the reasoning as to why she didn't like it. It is in my mind that she didn't really care for it. Mm-hmm. So it's interesting. You were bringing up, you know, they don't even get a say, and it's like, yeah, she doesn't even get a say.
That's so bad. Yeah, she should message me and be like, I don't like it, and then, you know, if she wants it removed, she can. I'm sure she can do it, but but otherwise, yeah, they gotta speak up a little bit louder, because if I don't hear him, you know, we gotta commentate. Yeah,
I don't think she cares that much. Mm-hmm. But she's actually one of the only people I know who's very peculiar about, I guess, her nickname and her real name. Because she also very much prefers to be called Sasha, which is, I feel like some people accuse us of being almost that meme in Twitch chat, you know, like, go Mark, by the way, I can call him Mark because he's my buddy. It's almost that kind of meme, but sometimes you hear the casters say Sasha instead of Scarlett. And I think it's the only reason is because in IRL, she prefers to be called Sasha. So it's interesting that she's most peculiar, because I don't think I know any other pro who really discusses their name. Like, I call you Thermal. You know, I don't think he cares about the name Schlappy. It's his real name after all. What were you saying?
IRL, you call him Euthermal?
Yeah, absolutely. I call everyone by their online handle.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, most people call me by my online handle. Even I guess that makes sense. My online handle comes from my IRL nickname, I guess, from my friends growing up. So yeah, everyone but my parents basically calls me Cats.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, my parents don't call me ZG, surprisingly.
They call you CG?
No, they don't.
Oh, okay.
That'd be kind of weird if they did. But Neil pointing out that people, I guess, do call Hiermer and Gabe a lot of the time, but I'm pretty sure I don't. I think I'm one of the least likely to call him Big Gabe. Every so often I make a joke if it's really obvious, I suppose, if it's low-hanging fruit enough. But yeah, just to bypass some of the early minutes of the TDZ, the 3cc.
Yeah, nothing much going on here, as the Reaper's just gonna get bruised, not really finding much damage. Did it get a Ling? It didn't, so 0 kills on the Reaper. Gets the information, forces out the Zerglings. It's, you know, not useless, but not a much accomplished Reaper, and that's all that has happened here as 2 Hellions get ready to be spawned. Not much to be said. Oh, 3cc? So that's pretty good. Did you mention that? You said 3cc, right?
Yeah, I said beginning a TVZ with a 3cc.
Yeah, so that's what we have. Pretty risky, but it's well tucked in, so Scarlett's not going to see it, not going to be able to punish.
Yeah. This is exactly what I was hoping for, though. You know, I brought up the 6-minute drop. I was thinking 3cc 211. Hits about 6 minutes, so about a minute later than the 2-base version. And then into a really strong, you know, follow-up timing, something that's a bit of a 1-2 punch. It's not that Scarlett would usually falter against it, but I think if you incorporate the other point that I made, where she might be a little, you know, underestimating Epic right now, I think that's how you get suddenly a very quick victory and kind of roll with the momentum afterwards. You know, maybe then you bring up a cheese or something like that. But yeah, I wasn't expecting Epic to be the type of person like a Masa, who absolutely would do whatever the hell he wanted versus Scarlett. Like, that's just, Masa beats her surprisingly often. Like, T-Rex, anything like that. Because Epic is pretty straight up, 9 times out of 10. But something like this is straight up, but with a little bit of spice to it, right? The macro spice. It is not the follow-up 2-1-1, though, just to be clear. It did have 6 Hellions, so not as fast as I was hoping for, but it's still a 3cc. It's still him trying to play a very good macro game to perhaps get that credit from Scarlett and be like, yeah, I took a game from you macro-wise, what you can do about it.
Yeah, for sure. And Epic is the type of player, like there was this league, it was like an Archon tournament that Hearthstone organized. And Estrella, out of all people, for some reason picked Epic and I. And so I was in a team with Epic. And I gathered a lot of information as far as like how he likes to approach Terran matchups because, you know, like we were Arconing. So like obviously he was commanding us in the Terran games. And I learned that he is an extremely structured player and he doesn't really deviate much. So like my ideas of how to play the Zerg game, for example, were strange to him, who also plays Zerg at a relatively high level on the NA ladder. But his approach is very straightforward. So as much as, yeah, he is greedy, this is something that he would have rehearsed. And I don't think that we are going to see from him any sort of like super cheese or any sort of strategy that he wouldn't be comfortable and hasn't prepared and played a million times. He is a very straightforward player in that regard. And I think, if anything, that's one of his weaknesses. But, you know, this is a better thing to be than to be Asuna, basically, right? Which is kind of on the other end of the spectrum, where it's like you can't macro, that's worse than you can't cheese. If that makes sense.
Yeah, I think I'm with you. Yes. Yes. I mean, cheesing people can get you so far, but yeah. Well, Epic is on his merry way to macro. This was a bit preemptive. The Hellions were not with him. The Medivacs weren't here, so that was a little sketch. Scarlett almost caught him unawares. Scarlett's going into a faster Muta build, so she's going to have a lot of control over this game. Oh, Epic out of the armory here. Okay, all right, that's actually really nice. A little bit of what, actually, I brought this up in a previous cast, but, you know, what Time was doing, I feel like last year. But fortunately for Scarlett, she does have access to the Banelings, so that's pretty important. Sometimes you catch them with the Baneling nest, but then they're kind of shocked and awed, and they don't actually have the Banelings prepared. It gets a little sketch. This time around, I think Scarlett is still very comfortable.
Yeah, for sure. Epic does carve a way into a little bit further into that creep for a later attack, perhaps, for a later push into that base of Scarlett. As he's going to pick off a couple of Banelings before loading in. It's going to cost him a couple Marines himself. And on the other side, he's also going to be looking for some space, and that's all he's going to be getting for the time being.
I mean, this can still add up, right? As much as this isn't going to be putting Scarlett on her heels, you know, she's not going to be on her back foot. She's not going to be kind of thrown off by this. As long as Epic is keeping his army alive and cleaning up some of this creep spread. I mean, take away the name Epic and put on Maru here, and we're talking about a very solid game. Well, until that exact moment. But a very solid game played out by the Terran, you know, who's gaining these advantages over time. So in this case, losing the 2 drops over to the right side does really suck, but it looks like this hatchery is going to be a goner. And what's worse is that Scarlett actually thought she was trying to save it, or capable of saving it. So she uses a couple of Banelings a bit unnecessarily. The hatchery was a goner anyways.
Yeah, for sure. At the same time, Epic with a couple of small mishaps there, like for example, burrowing the mines next to each other makes it so that the same 3 Banelings can take those down. So maybe that was part of why Scarlett commits a little bit more than she should have, perhaps, but it doesn't hurt her too much. She's still on 3 base. Epic is still getting his 4th base, but I am with you. He's playing a very strong game, very just solid. This is what I expect from Epic's TVC. It's just gonna look generally good, right? Can he go the extra mile though, and beat a player of the caliber of Scarlett, right? Because she's used to players who can execute to this degree.
Right. I would say if Scarlett had a weakness, it would be more towards the early to mid game. That's usually where we see her get thrown off kilter by a lot of time the Korean Terrans, which always, you know, Korean Terrans always packs a bit more of a punch. So I am worried that Epic is still going to lose, and perhaps even very one-sidedly, to be honest. But there's no doubting that so far it's been a completely normal game for a Terran player. I think so far okay.
Oh, what?
Never mind. That did not work out for it.
Yeah, the bushes are not helping. Oh, finally a great connection
shot.
there.
It also scouted, perhaps more importantly. Epic, I mean, playing a little bit dangerously by putting all of his army over to the left side and only having a small defense squad over to the right, but it works out well for him. That hatchery once again in his sights.
Yeah, beautiful. And he had a beautiful pre-spread before. This time around, not as good as of a pre-spread. Scarlett doesn't really have a plan to surround this, and a very nice Baneling run by is going to kill just 10 SCVs. I thought it would be worse, actually.
Yeah.
Now Scarlett coming, but just from the one angle, as Epic continues to clear creep to situate himself in this high ground and continue to perhaps push. Doesn't need to.
Yeah, I don't think he should. I like the move back. Wouldn't mind still going to cause some trouble. And I do believe taking a fight off of creep would have gone all right for Epic, so don't mind the turnaround temporarily. But Scarlett even miscontrolling some of her reinforcing mutas. Some of them went down. And speaking of the mutas, they have not gotten any access to Epic's side of the map. They've done their job as far as picking off a couple of these medevacs, a couple of these drops, but they haven't actually controlled the game nearly as much as I was giving them credit for.
Damn.
That was a bit funny. It was a big Widowmine hate on both Scarlett and a little bit of Epic too, but now we're off creep. Widowmine's once again burrow. This looks like a good opportunity. Yes, an excellent opportunity for Epic to take a good fight. That Widowmine might have just put him in the winning position.
Yeah, definitely in a small lead, at least for now. So he's gonna try to convert that by going yet again into this base, which is very sensible because the creep has receded, or the creep has been taken down multiple times here. It hasn't receded because Scarlett is so good that she just keeps applying creep tumors as soon as Epic leaves this position. So maybe he can hold it for a little bit longer just to make sure that the Queens don't have an early launch pad out of there. As Scarlett continues to harass with banelings, she is going to break through the wall as well, so Epic wants to make sure that he's remaking that. And here comes the fight.
You know, the only thing that really is missing from Epic here, okay, for that particular fight, maybe a couple more Widowmines, but an excellent last-second split. The Thor does get eventually taken down, but it lasted longer than it should have. But the one thing that is missing from Epic is a second drop, a second attack, right? That drop off the right side is alive for all of this action. And I think Scarlett, you know, one, doesn't have nearly as much creep threat over to the right side, which then continues to add value for Epic. And she might not even have this base saturated currently. She might still be struggling. Oh,
that was explosions onto the Queen, judging by its HP, and that's a lot of banelings that you need to get that Queen to that low of an HP. So that is really nice for Epic. He's going to look to capitalize here, pushes on forward with the Thor and a few Marines. The Thor mostly being ignored by the Ling Bane, but that means it can be picked up and repositioned. Still looking good to do damage onto the Muta. Epic's going to have to evacuate here unless the reinforcements are enough, but I think on creep, he's just going to be forced to back to the mines, though. And good Widowmine shots is going to make it so that Scarlett ends up being the one that has to turn around. And out of that zombie grab, it's Epic with a 10 supply lead. Very close game.
Very close. This is a lot closer than I was expecting leading into the mid and late game because, yeah, Epic just, you know, really is not supposed to win. I think we can say that. I mean, Epic probably is the type of guy who comes in here thinking, I'm just not even going to try because, you know, it's clearly trying. He's given his best build right here. But you got to be expecting, you know, things have already gone a bit worse. But so far, very good game from him. Good reactions against the Baneling run-bys is mostly what I think is really giving me a lot of confidence, believe it or not. Yeah, the engagements have been good. His control and his Thors have been excellent. But it's the fact that Scarlett never got something kind of dug into the side to really mess him up. So Epic has been in control of the game like you would expect a top-tier Terran to be. And with some of the Widowmines getting fabulous shots, including one of them in the last fight, I think Scarlett is very close to death. I'm pretty sure she loses this game.
That was a very good engagement from Epic, dodging all of the banelings for the most part, or a lot of them anyway. The Widowmines connecting, like you were saying, and on creep, Scarlett not able to take the engagement that she was looking for. So, yeah, it is looking fantastic for an Epic that just took an extra base right now. That makes it so that if he wants to take it a little bit slower, nice run by here from Scarlett trying to buy time. If he wants to take it a little bit slower, I think he can transition into just pushing on the other side of the map where there is less creep. Though saying that, Scarlett has expanded a little bit of creep here too. But if we look at the corner base that Epic is now headed towards, that is a very easy base to take down. There isn't creep nearby. So if Epic can get into that position, clear that last creep door, but the banelings are actually going to connect. And that is a fantastic cleanup for Scarlett, who is now closer in the supply.
Yeah, Epic was playing with fire. He was on creep for so damn long. If he was going to do that and look elsewhere, he had to have at least somewhat of a pre-split. So that was just thinking I have an extra 2 seconds, and then you don't. It's a mistake, obviously, but understandable one, a very, very impactful one. Thankfully, the Widowmine shot kind of helped make up for the damage that he took, but maybe not enough. Scarlett, with that humongous run-by, finally gets what I thought she would get, which is that maybe she is on the back foot a couple of times in this game, but then she punches back, right? She makes Epic actually have to prove his multitasking as well as his defense, and that's usually where we see some of the, you know, not Maru's crumble. You know, they might have a good opener, they might have the control of the game just because the Zerg kind of building up to something, but once they get jabbed, they fall apart, and that's the real test here. Epic passed it for a lot of this game, got like a C on the most recent run by, right? That's when he finally messed up, but still in a great position, saves all of his bases, plants down that 5th base again to turn into a planetary. He still got a very good late game.
Yeah, for sure. Unfortunately for Epic, he does have to lift up that planetary fortress, and it may not look like a huge deal because investment-wise, he technically doesn't lose anything but the few SCVs that were in that base. But it's a really nice run by for Scarlett, because for Epic to re-secure that base, he now needs to make sure he needs to bring his army back. And now that the planetary fortress is mostly done, he can again move out on the map, right? So now there's 2 mines there, there's a PF there, there is a turret there. But before, it was really awkward for Epic. He was so close to finishing the planetary fortress that it was fine in his mind to move away from it. So Scarlett finding a really important timing that buys her like an extra minute or 2 that Epic is not out on the map. He's not out clearing creep. Now he's back out, and now he's looking for the base that I was hoping he would go towards. Let's see if he can set himself up well to take it down.
A lot more of a good progression here, right? Skirting the right side of the creep, probably scouting ahead. Yeah, just the Marine scouting ahead, really, to preset the engagement. This is much better, obviously, than last time. Again, the only thing missing is a drop to the left side to try and clear up something over there. And we'll see if this is going to be good enough. Just the attack, it has been in previous engagements, but once again, Scarlett looking, well, maybe not to defend the base, as it does. Oh, that is a split right there. You're not actually punishing that. But she has a huge run by going in as well. So if that can cause some catastrophic damage, maybe she can make up for the loss of the right side base as well as her army. Some of these ultras not really totally supported. A fungal does go down, but it's not going to be enough. We're a little light on the Marauders, which I think is the only reason that looked tempting for Scarlett, but I don't think it was actually good enough. Yes, the Lings did some damage on the 3rd CC, but Scarlett, she loses the right base. She's going to lose another base. And where are the Banelings? She's currently at 0. She's only making 6. Epic does not want to stick around for too much longer, though. Is going to skedaddle by his time, I suppose, but that was a pretty good attack. All right, 2 bases killed is excellent.
Yeah, but I mean, off camera, Epic took so much damage, and those ultras, they baited a lot of the Widowmine shots, and there weren't enough. There was 1 single Marauder to start that engagement from Epic, now adding a lot more Marauders. So Scarlett is actually the one that's ahead in supply. She does lose the base, which kind of sucks for her. So income-wise, Epic should be able to somewhat equalize, but the problem is the worker numbers are low. So even though he has the mules to work with, I think its income's going to be kind of even right now, but he doesn't really have a fallback plan in terms of economy, and he has to be really careful. Huge fungal here, as you were talking about, and another one ready to go. It's actually going to connect. The Widowmines will burrow, but connecting onto a lot, actually, and the ultras are getting a little bit low. There is 3 Marauders here left out to still dish out damage as the Thor tanks up for the ultras. It can be repositioned with a medevac, and it does so last second as the ultras are getting kited. No more fungal to hold the army in place. Scarlett may be overextending with those ultras,
I think so,
as she continues to try to reinforce. But yeah, those last few seconds were a little bit of an overextension on what otherwise was a great engagement for Scarlett.
It could have been even better, actually. That's absolutely a moment we're going to look back with the Juniper Network experience, because that was really potentially game-defining. You know, like that could have been absolutely game over for Epic, but I think the fact that he was already on the retreat when that fungal hit was a real difference maker, as opposed to continuing to be, going forward. And then second, it could have been such an extension that Scarlett then ends unfavorably for her, right? Ends the game, because she did overextend. She does not have the bank she usually would against a player like Epic, I suppose. I mean, we're going to have to reevaluate our perception of Epic after this game, but usually she would not have taken all this damage, all these trades, she would have had 7 bases happily mining with 80 drones, and she has never actually had that all at once, right? It's always been like 3 or 4 bases mining really well, and the rest under attack. So that was absolutely an overextension, and now we have that second drop hitting the left side base, something that Scarlett absolutely needs. She's going to need one hell of an engagement, but her kind of trump card has already been used. Epic is going to be on the lookout for any of those burrowed infestors again.
Absolutely, and you were talking about that drop. You wanted it, now it's there, and Scarlett has been conditioned throughout this game to not look for it, so it does get value right away because it hasn't been expected. This Thor should have been repaired. It went out and it literally dies to a single fungal. So I was hoping that there was an SCV there to repair it. As I was looking at the Thor moving out, it was just kind of a sad sight, but Epic regardless is pushing forward and doing a great job of it. He takes excellent trades, he cancels the base on the other side, and that means Scarlett's mining ability is reduced to a base and a third or so, whereas Epic has at least 2.5 bases worth of real estate. So now the income's going to start swinging into Epic's favor, regardless of the drone advantage that Scarlett has.
Yeah, she's only on one fresh base. It's not even that fresh, actually. It was killed once, but it had been mining for a decent amount of time beforehand. So that's really all she's got, and it's going to be a goner very soon. Epic almost doubling the army supply, causing a real upset in this game, as Scarlett's going to take her last fight without any banelings. That is never a good sign. Marauders on the backside attacking those infestors, and there you have it. Epic takes game 1 in one of the most straight up games possible.
That is, yeah, classic Epic. He's gonna play it as straight up as it gets, and he is again like that kind of player that builds up slowly to where he needs to be. He is also, or was at least, going to school and prioritizing school for a long time, so he never reached, I think, his full potential. But I mean, if you're gonna be a very straight up player that kind of follows a formula of sorts and that kind of has a set style, I think that Terran is the race to do it. I think that Terran can thrive under those circumstances, and Epic, I mean, in this matchup, he's just an absolute beast.
That was very impressive. You know, some people out there are going to start pointing out the build order differences and saying, well, he got away with the 3CC. And yes, we should consider that. You know, if we were going in here thinking that they were evenly matched players and then there was no punish on a 3CC Terran, well, we'd be talking about how that puts them in a good position and they got to play out the rest of their game very cleanly. And again, if this was Mara, we'd be like, yeah, okay, what's the surprise? But 9 times out of 10, I feel like I've witnessed other North American Terrans go up against, I guess specifically Scarlett, but any other kind of the top 3 North Americans, right? And even Estrella as well. And they might have really good starts. They might have really good build orders and really good 6-minute games. And then something happens that just throws them completely off. And the experience and coolness under pressure really thrives from the 3, again, top NA players. But Epic looked on the level, man, in every single regard, defensively, multitasking, decision-making. It was all great.
Yeah, absolutely. And for me, I think that Scarlett kind of pulls herself apart from other players with moves like we saw from that Burrowed Infestor. That is the extra little thing, the extra little thought where you can change and adapt and have like that creativity to inform you in each individual game that maybe Epic doesn't have. Like, he doesn't have that X factor of like, whoa, that was an awesome move like you see from Clem or Maru all the time. But he will play a rock solid game and can test anyone. And Scarlett has been tested and she didn't pass. In the top left-hand side, it is for Psystorm Gaming, Epic.
In the bottom right, as the blue Zerg, she is Scarlett. I think she bet something like 50,000 channel points on herself. So it's going to be a double whammy of a loss if she loses.
I'm sure she's going to be really sad about that.
But,
yeah. And we were talking about the 3rd CC, but even in that regard, while Epic is taking a little bit of a risk, he tucks it way in the back of his base, right? So it's not going to be easily spotted, for example, by an Overlord. So Scarlett wants to punish it. She would have been taking a risk herself because she doesn't have that full information, and Epic's taking a little bit of a loss in the longer flight time to make sure that he is getting away with at least not giving his opponent all the infos.
I wonder if you do it again on Berlingrad.
UCC.
Sketch. Yeah. Especially against Scarlett, right? Because Scarlett is absolutely capable of cheesing. But, you know, I say that, I don't think she would have to. So there is that. Well,
she's
I mean, so far.
Well. Yeah.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say she's down as well, right? So, like, it is a risk now to do any cheese because all of a sudden you could just end up losing the series 2-0 to Epic.
That would be... Yeah, I don't think she's that type of player, absolutely. I think she would start off with a cheese, maybe, or... You know, absolutely, if she thinks she knew the player really well, maybe she would have as well. But, you know, to my point earlier in the pre-show disc, whatever it is, like, I don't know how well she actually thinks she knows Epic. I'm sure they play occasionally, but just not in the same way that she might try and know Amasa, which... Actually, more often than not, kind of makes their best ofs very funny. But anyways, it is another 3rd CC. We didn't have a second gas put down. Wow. We can have different iterations of the 3CC, though. So that's what I'm going to be keeping a keen eye on. And Scarlett should be as well. You know, is it going to be the Hellbat thing again? Is it going to be in a Hellion Banshee? Because it will be soon enough obvious that it is a 3CC.
Yeah, I would like the Banshee, if anything, just because it is Berlingrad. So if you're going to get punished here, it should be by a Roach attack. And like you said, Scarlett is no stranger to punishing, but she doesn't really have an Overlord in position to sacrifice, for example, and she's just now sending her first circling out. She did get the circling out successfully out of her base to try and look for information, but she's not going to gather a lot just from the low ground expand here. So yeah, we'll see.
Well, that lack of supply depot is really telling. And I think with the Roach Warren coming down, I think it was like 250. They're going to have Roaches go across the map. So if Epic doesn't pick up on this, his Reaper is currently positioned well, but also very obviously positioned. And he doesn't get a Banshee. Oh, he's going to get a Banshee. Brilliant decision. I mean, it's almost... We could be harsh. We could say that this is too on the nose for Scarlett, right? Like, she is on Berlingrad. She can be a cheesy player. We know that much. And Epic is just kind of saying, you know what? I think I can take a little bit of a loss on like the straight up macro side and get that almost safety Banshee. Yes, there's potential offensively for it, but I would say that this is actually more defensively minded. It just is going to also have the potential for a counter.
And that is just kind of the thing, right? Like when we look at Berlingrad and we're talking about ZC, and I'm so happy that you pointed out that there's different ways to approach it. On other maps, you probably don't go for the Banshee simply because they're longer. There's less likely to be a Roach attack. On Berlingrad, it's such a short rush distance map that Roaches are much more likely. For anyone that's unfamiliar, right? The shorter the rush distance, the more it favors units that are generally slow but are strong once they're in position. That is Roaches in a nutshell. And so Banshee opening, again, Epic, a very straight up player. This is probably just his go-to opening on Berlingrad. Is it going to be enough to hold a Scarlett aggression here? As she's not even all-inning, really.
No, she isn't. A big round of drones came up behind this, but generally I'd say you want to kill... I don't actually, I made like 8 or 10 SCVs at the very least, but this was at 4. And a little bit of splash damage on the Marauder. But it is obviously better for Epic to deal with this and then have still a little bit of map control. Not with the Hellions anymore too, but definitely with the Banshees. I'd say that Epic is very happy with the way this played out.
Yeah, even adds the double eBay, so he's not really concerned about any follow-ups. He just saw that attack and he evaluated the situation perfectly. He sees what's going on. He says, okay, no reinforcements, no links. I can just transition right away. I can continue to be greedy. I can add production. I don't need non-stop unit production right now to continue to defend. So just one Marine in his production tab. He knows he saved 6 workers from that little Hellion poke, and now the Banshees are going to poke, and they're going to find themselves in a position to at least pick off 1 or 2 workers on the edge here, and just the 1 will go down as the reaction from Scarlett is excellent.
The Hellions had already done more damage than her Roach attack, so that's quite a statement. That's not good for the Zerg. Can Scarlett bring it back? If this was the first game, I would say absolutely. Again, we favored her coming into this, so we'd say, oh, you know, she'll bring it back. Epic will make a mistake, blah, 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 blah. But, oh, if Epic can play to the same standard he set in the last game, just with a different opener, she's dead. I would actually go so far as say she is dead. Again, if this was facing maybe a Beyond or a Maru, at least gets one of the Banshees. But that's going to be tough.
Yeah, getting one of the Banshees is nice. Of course, the Banshees are not going to be able to one-shot drones anymore, so they pose much less of a threat. They don't have to be tended to right away on the side of Scarlett should they show up anywhere else on the map. But Epic's doing a good job of just controlling the creep with his 1 Banshee for the time being. Gonna get a little bit too close to the sun in that Spore Crawler, and 1 shot away from dying, but Scarlett unable to reach. So this game should be stabilizing from here, as Epic is going to be a little bit ahead on the upgrades. Now getting his combat shields and situating his 3rd base. And yeah, I would give a slight edge to Epic here for sure.
Just a matter of playing it out as well as the last game. That's really it. So first of all, got to account for the creep spread. It is pretty insane already through the middle of the map. Scarlett is going to more of a volatile composition, right? Not just taking on Roach, Ravager, which is easier for the Terran to size up. Actually adding on those Banelings and going into Hydras as well. So probably the Roaches she has, all going to be turned to Ravagers, and that'll be the portion of her army devoted to that. But Epic, he doesn't really have to change very much right now. Calmly building up at home while doing a couple of drops, couple of creep clearing. Darn it. So I was trying not to get that wrong. Missions is the way to go right now, and also to keep tabs on whether it is all Roaches, because I said it, you know, I'm glad to see that she's doing it. I think it's more volatile to include those Banelings. Epic doesn't actually know if it's going to be a big attempt at a 1-1 Roach follow-up or a macro. You know, he hasn't actually gotten any idea about that quite yet.
Yeah, and it's gonna be an odd one. It's gonna be Roach Hydra. Now an Infestation Pit is being dropped as well. So not sure how this is gonna work out. We don't really see this composition very much in CBT. Roaches are common, sure, but Roach Hydra is not that common, right? It's usually Hydra Bane if you're gonna go the Hydra route at all. But maybe Scarlett has lurkers in mind, and that is, I guess. Oh no, that's bad. But that's a style that Dark somewhat has used, that the Europeans deem the cave vault approach here to things. So maybe Scarlett will be dropping a lurker then when she starts her hive here.
Yeah, perhaps. That kind of sucks about losing that half of the drop, I suppose. Does want to control the creep until Epic's actually ready to go, which it does seem like now is the time. Push and expand, I would actually say. Yeah, it does have 8 barracks. It's not 8 barracks all in. So push and expand behind this. This is one of the more difficult spots for a Zerg player to dislodge once the Terrans got those tanks sieged up against the wall or even around the choke. Having to go around the bend is actually kind of annoying for the Zerg. Very annoying, in fact. So this is definitely tough for Scarlett to dislodge, and she's not quite ready with those lurkers. Obviously, it is going to be completely based off of Ling, Baneling, Ravager, Hydra. It's kind of a complicated army.
It is a weird one, and tanks are kind of the ideal situation for Epic, but he doesn't have too many of them, so we'll see if he can make those work, as the Ravagers get actually beautiful biles from Scarlett from that high ground. Very uncharacteristic random overlord there to the left allows for vision. And with that vision, the Ravagers connect their 3 vials onto 2 clumped up tanks. Now Scarlett happy to take the engagement off of creep. Even the Banelings are mostly not going to connect onto the army in the back. And with that, actually, Epic's going to be able to chase back the Hydras. They're very frail units. And with reinforcements, Epic enclosing into that army, it's going to look really nice. On the other side, Scarlett with a counterattack of Roaches. And this
doesn't have any Banelings.
Yeah.
This actually might be it, man. Like, even without the reinforcements, it was going to be a little sketch for pure Hydra. The Lings are now spilling 4, but again, no Banelings, so it's a matter of sustainability. Does Epic actually have enough medevacs? So far, not the case. A lot of those frontline units were a little too injured. The Queen's coming forward to try and support, but the 2 tanks, now a 3rd one even coming forward, might make it too much. He pulls the drones away from the 3rd hatch. But that actually might just be too much. I mean, she also gets 16 drones.
Needs to save those tanks.
Ooh, good save, good save.
Yeah, really good save. And now Scarlett's gonna come and try to defend this base. She kind of has to defend this base, but Epic's not gonna give her an opportunity. I think that base can just be targeted down. Yeah, Epic's gonna do exactly just that. Now evacuation would be the ideal scenario for Epic. Instead, he's gonna stand his ground as reinforcements have joined again. And with his lurkers, they're upgradeless. But with the last remaining tank being taken down, they should be enough as anchors. However, Scarlett is looking for further punishment because she just took so much damage. Don't be deceived by the supply. This was a successful attack for Epic, but actually, Scarlett does have 90 workers. So if she can reestablish her bases and continue to mine, this game is far from over.
Right, that is the complication, is that Scarlett got punished really badly there, getting 2 of her hatcheries killed, and then just, you know, a big chunk of the army had to be sacrificed. But she also had gone up to so many drones. You know, it's like if Epic didn't do as much damage as he did, he'd be completely dead, 100%. But now it's a little more complicated. Scarlett's not really mining really off of 92 drones. A lot of it's long distance mining. She is going to get 2 of her bases back up and running. Not this one. She'll cancel this, but then the left 2 are getting back on the road.
Yeah, so this is an important attack for Epic, who right now has 96 army supplied to 77. He has to continue to try to find efficiency with this army. If possible, the creep spread for Scarlett will pose a problem on that regard. He has established his 4th base, and I've been keeping an eye on the income, and it's pretty much even, or it had been. Now Scarlett's going to start to pull a little bit ahead as she starts mining her new bases. So it's really important for Epic to continue to deny those to kind of keep things even and keep in that regard. If he can stay even in economy, if he can continue to take these bases down, then he has the larger army, the better army for the time being.
The TVZ conundrum for sure. Usually hitting with a much bigger army and 3-3, although in this case, Epic has not started it. You know, even +3 attack. That's really missing right now. Obviously very focused on trying to keep up the pressure. That was one hell of a split, by the way.
Yeah, really now parasitic bombs onto the medevacs, abducts onto 2 of the tanks. This is where Epic's gonna have to win via attrition, but it's not gonna be easy because Scarlett is gonna be really testing him at every corner. So these lower pushes, lower sieges are on a timer themselves from those Vipers. At the same time, Scarlett is going to decide to go on the counter offense, and there's not just SCVs and a base there situated, but also quite a bit of production. So Epic in a little bit of trouble. He will manage to take one of the fresher bases of Scarlett. There is more on the other side. There's a little bit of red there too. These lurkers unaccounted for. I'm not sure where the scan is. And Epic going into the main, looking for a big drop, CG. Will this work?
I feel like it won't, but the two Vipers are out of juice currently, so they're not going to be able to dislodge some of these siege units, so it actually might be perfect. We will witness this and decide, I guess, if it's game ending or not. Main base currently losing the two evolution chambers. It's going to keep them on equal upgrades for a while longer. The hive could go down, so no more Vipers if she happens to lose them over the Marines. Epic scanning ahead, seeing if he can actually take this fight. He's going to try on creep, of course, because it's Scarlett's own main base, dislodging the Liberator with one of the abducts. Not that they are really part of the fight in total, and they're actually re-sieging just in time for the Hydras to come in. A couple of shots are there. The hive is in the sights of Epic, but he's not going to be able to get it. The lurkers burrow. The hive lives, and Epic, he might get out of there with the medevacs, but not much of the ground army. The supply absolutely plummeting for the Terran.
Yeah, this looks terrible now for Epic, who has to answer lurkers everywhere, and he has to decide basically where to use his last remaining scans. These 3 tanks, they really just got lazy. They could have been loaded into those medevacs as well and served as a further anchor into the main that would have allowed him to trade a little bit more, a little bit better. But unfortunately for Epic, not going to be able to take that game. It was still a very close game, very contested game, and Epic had a very good defense at the start, found himself in advantageous positions, but Scarlett does manage to complete the comeback there, Jess.
Yeah, it was a bit of a comeback for sure. You dedicate to that many roaches early on, you only get 4 SCVs, then you lose 6 of your own to their Hellions. It's a big deal. But yeah, Scarlett chose all the right ways to come back, droning when she needed to and building army when she needed to. And I think Epic did miss some of the control post-Roach attack, you know, losing the drop to the left, not necessarily taking care of the creep tumors. And then while things did level off, the big run by with lurkers, I don't think Epic was at all anticipating that. And it was a risk from Scarlett, absolutely, but it paid off.
Yeah, I was just talking about how Epic likes to play super standard, super straight up. I mean, there's a reason why most players won't have that much production at their triangle third. So, you know, I don't think it's gonna play into most games, but in this game certainly doesn't help to have your production siege that much of it at the third by those lurkers. And unfortunate for Epic, I feel like if he had a few more CCs, even a little bit more scans, then he could have cleared lurkers in multiple locations. He could have scanned more proactively, and maybe he could have taken better traits. But as it stands, Scarlett takes that map, and she looked great towards the end portion of it, right? Just like very methodical with her Vipers and her control in general. Yeah,
I think she found a lot more comfortability, I guess, in the later game. So she made the stronger decisions and played out some of the individual battles a lot better. Funnily enough, I wanted to point this out in the game, but going for the run by, even forcing Epic to pick up one of his few orbitals was kind of a big deal. I don't think he literally had any scans on the offensive, so try to do what he could in that position, which is Doom Drop in the main. Kudos for that. But I would say every time I see a Doom Drop into the main TVZ, it doesn't work. So I'm just inherently biased against it.
Yeah, it's difficult to make work. I think that Epic could have sieged a little bit closer to the ramp, maybe had the Liberators at the ramp, but there's still Vipers in play. So, you know, like any extra effort that you make to try and do stuff like that is probably going to go to waste, because the abducts are going to come onto the Liberators anyway. But it would have at least delayed Scarlett from going up there, and there was a few tanks that were left out of the fight as well. But yeah, I actually checked for the energy on the CCs as he dropped into the main, and he had like 1 scan left, so he couldn't account for both the attack that he knew was coming into the main base of Scarlett and defending on his base 2 locations that were getting lurkered basically. So rough luck, but great from Scarlett identifying that as well. And yeah, that's what I'm talking about here. It is the Queen of Blades, Scarlett. The Queen of Spices as well. Maybe I should call her that instead.
Bottom left for Sidestorm Gaming, he is Epic. Because she likes eating spicy food.
She loves eating spicy food. She's my arch nemesis.
Yeah, love to see a best of 5 showdown between you two.
She would win, but
I guess so.
But no one else would take a game, okay?
Well, it's not a very fun game to play, in my opinion. She once got tteokbokki, and the rest of us got normal tteokbokki, like not insanely hot.
Yeah.
And she was like, "Yeah, no, try it. It's really good." And I was like, "Okay." Yeah. And I just had like a little tiny bit because I'm not terrible when it comes to spice, but I don't necessarily. I'm definitely not going to play that game. You know, if I go into hot wings, I'm staying around like the 6th chicken one. You know. Yeah. But anyways, I tasted it. And I was like, this is just gross. This is nothing but spice. Like, what is wrong with you?
Nah,
it really had no flavor to me.
Yeah, I think it's an acquired taste. Like, I can see how the spice can be overwhelming, but once you get past that, all the hot sauces have different flavors, and some are delicious, you know? And it's like, it's like a secret almost, because like most people don't get to taste them because all you taste is your mouth on fire. Yeah. But once you get past that a certain threshold, it's like fine wine, you know? It's like...
Okay. Yeah. I guess you could compare it to whiskey, which usually people get really turned off by like peatiness or something like that. Yeah. But if you can get over it, it's really a good experience. I mean, exactly. I know like because I've had really spicy but still very good, you know, spicy XYZ, and I know that another hot wing, what's the word I'm looking for? Common thing that happens in every hot wing video is that they get to the 5th one or whatever it is, the bomb. And everyone's like, "Oh, that's so terrible. Why did you do this to me?" And then by the next one, it's a different flavor. It's spicier technically on the Scoville thing, whatever it is, but it's better tasting. And they'll be like, "Oh, this, you know, it hurts, but it's much better." Yeah. So that's for sure. Yeah, I think whatever tteokbokki she got when we were hanging out in the player house years ago, I think it was the bomb flavored.
Maybe so. Well, this game is not the bomb yet. It is just a normal TVC with a 3rd command center again from Epic. So again, Epic, you know, he is a pretty standard player. He's just opening his opening, and that is good enough for most players. But now Scarlett has seen it 3 times in a row. So I feel like over the series and as it transpires, she's going to be making adjustments. She's going to know who she's playing against. Last time her answer was to go to 90 drones. This time around, she's not going to be able to rely on roaches and hydras, most likely, just given the map that they're playing on. You know, they're less effective, but she still has the basic precepts of how Epic likes to play. So, yeah, I think she's going to, you know, readjust a little bit more and more. And Epic is kind of just going to do the same thing.
Well, Fusion Core's coming down, so I do like this. I think that trying to pivot 180 and go for a 2-racks would not have worked out anyways. In my opinion, so I'm really glad he didn't do that. But changing it up after the 3CC, I think is still absolutely the way to go, which is exactly what's happening here. Now, question, does Epic actually go from mech afterwards? Because that would be a humongous change. I do feel like the one battle cruiser into bio has come back into the fold for a decent amount of Terrans, though.
Yeah, for sure. And this is not an uncommon opening as well, right? Like for a while, it was one of the more common TVC openings, so you can expect Epic to have variants in that sense, but it's not going to be an all-in of any kind, I don't think, right? Like, and I don't know that I know Epic to be a mecher, but that would be lovely to see. That would be really switching it up.
If he is going to mech, I would love it because he's been secretly practicing it, right? Yeah. But if it's on the fly, if it's, well, it really would be unexpected, that is, again, far more like a Mata move. It is an Epic move, and no, it is not going to be mech. We got our barracks on the way.
Yeah, Epic wouldn't YOLO, I think. He would not go for a strategy that he isn't very familiar with, so let's see what he can do with the battlecruisers. And that is the cool thing about Epic too, is that, you know, like, while he won't take extreme risks and look to make the game super chaotic in that sense, all of his strategies are going to be well rehearsed. Like, what you see here is something that he has practiced, something that he has studied, and something that he knows how to work around. So let's see what his protocol for this first battlecruiser is.
Well, Scarlett is guarding against a possible Liberator follow-up. You know, one spore on the angles of the mineral lines. But if the BC just teleports right into the main mineral line or natural, it get a decent amount of drones before she reacts. So what's gonna be? Oh, unfortunately onto the spore, but that's okay.
Yeah, that's okay. It can move away from it pretty fast here. So those are Liberator spores. So Scarlett clearly accounting for something other than Banshee, but not necessarily BC. So this is still good news for Epic, who's still finding some damage and making Scarlett look elsewhere with the Hellions, but not really getting those Hellions cutters around it either. So 6 workers have already fallen, and this looks pretty okay for Epic to start.
I'd say so. 100% a Terran player is hoping for the Hellions to also get some type of damage done, because usually that's the bigger deal. In this case, they even get surrounded a little bit. Not too bad, not too bad. But the battlecruiser living and drones going down at all, Hellions living, I think, at all, it's all kind of a good baseline. I am a little shocked to see Scarlett going into Spire again. Not a really quick one, just... I mean, first of all, I don't believe she's doing it because of the battlecruiser. No, I no. I think she knows it's going to go into bio afterwards. But then 2, it's just the first game, they never got to do what Mutas would usually want to, which is interrupt and disrupt Epic's macro. They were totally defensive. So I thought maybe she'd play pure lane Baneling, but Scarlett, thankfully one of the older fashioned, I suppose, Zerg players, she still likes Mutas.
Yeah, and we might see Muta because there hasn't been a second BC either added from Epic. Muta are not good against BCs. This is a good Hellion run by. Gonna find 5 additional workers, make it 6 before they most likely get surrounded and die. Maybe can get a 7th, but misclicks at the very end there. And yeah, this battlecruiser will be able to most likely recall away, and the Muta are not a great answer to the battlecruiser, but because it's just the one, Epic could be in a little bit of trouble because those Muta are gonna cross the map. And if Epic is not ready, it is no bueno. If he had been continuing to produce battlecruisers, though, it would be really good against this response, I think.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, but usually the only way you go into more battlecruisers is if you play mech. So again, Scarlett, I mean, she's playing around a little bit, not knowing for a fact that it's bio, but I think it is, as we also said, a very good guess to make. So here's the thing. Epic is 8 racks, effectively all-inning. So if he had been able to pressure with this push prior to the Mutas showing up, she would have to, once again, only use these defensively. Even though it doesn't seem like it would help against an 8 racks, you kind of be in that weird position as a Zerg player where you'd need to, like, ASAP get on the defense, you know, get your, the order of things. But now the Mutas, they get this kind of free fire over the main and natural. They interrupt Epic at quite a bit, and they can still come home and help out. Maybe pick off a tank, pick off a medevac, that type of thing. It is all coming down to this push, though. 8 racks really is quite dedicated. Your 4 CC is very, very late. If you ever get one, you don't have a lot of upgrades, but it does hit like a truck.
And it is hitting like a truck. That is a lot of Banelings, but Epic has had one of the better splits or pre-spreads of his units that we've seen. All tournament long, perhaps. I haven't seen too much of this matchup, of course, but it's looking pretty decent for Epic. Scarlett is making millions of Banelings, though. And in the back, the Muta are doing exactly as you said, picking off struggling tanks. They looked for reinforcements earlier, and now they're ready for the fight. Here it comes, as Scarlett is going to push, but only through one choke. However, there's still creep everywhere, so it's not going to be too easy for Epic to split outside. He does find small patches where there is no creep, and Epic's army actually still stands. Zombie grab after. Scarlett attempts to break it down. This looks all right, if not great. Great? It looks great.
I think it's great. It's great. Epic is not facing that many Banelings. Certainly not enough Banelings. Those are literally the only ones that are creating on the field. They're going to be sniped down, even if they aren't. That's only like 6 or 7. Ooh. If they're going to get the most amazing hits possible, then maybe, but they don't. And that is it. Epic, with the 8 racks, takes the 2-1. And he is appropriately happy about that one.